Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you out in cyberspace who are sending me wonderful realizations about the benefits you're getting from these readings. They're making my day. And I forgot to put the microphone on. Yeah, I'm still here. Hare Krishna. Anyway, I'll repeat it again, just in case you missed it the first time. I'm thanking all of you out there in cyberspace that are sending me messages, appreciating the benefits that you're getting from these readings. It's making my life, actually, really pleasing to the heart that I can't express. It's so pleasing to the heart. So, yes, coming and hearing the Bhagavatam like this every single day is an opportunity for us to associate with Krishna directly, and all of the great personalities that are in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the literary incarnation of God. And in that way, whatever's going on in our lives, which in most cases, most devotees are pretty ecstatic all through the day because they're doing a devotional service all day. But just in case we have issues and situations that we have to go through, this is the place to get complete relief from material existence. So thank you all for being here, and thank you all for participating, and let's start. Let's hear Sanatana Goswami's prayer to the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kali Dvandodita Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mandistadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atinichutita kada hanamunchagadachin mam premnarit katayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we've reached the 4th chapter of the 7th canto. Hiranyakasipu, after going through severe austerities, has gotten the blessings of Lord Brahma. And now he's very powerful. And now we're going to find out that what a demon does with blessings. Right? Chapter 4. Hiranyakasipu terrorizes the universe. This chapter fully describes how Hiranyakasipu obtained power from Lord Brahma and misused it by harassing all the living entities within this universe. By severe austerities, Hiranyakasipu satisfied Lord Brahma and obtained the benedictions he desired. After he received these benedictions, his body, which had been almost entirely consumed, was revived with full beauty and a luster like gold. Nonetheless, he continued to be envious of Lord Vishnu, unable to forget Lord Vishnu's having killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. His brother. Hiranyakasipu conquered everyone in the 10 directions and the 3 worlds and brought all living entities, both demigods and asuras, under his control. Becoming the master of all places, including the residents of Indra, whom he had driven out, he began enjoying life in great luxury and thus became mad. All the demigods but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva came under his control and began serving him. But despite all his material power, he was dissatisfied because he was always puffed up, proud of transgressing the Vedic regulations. All the Brahmanas were dissatisfied with him and they cursed him with determination. Eventually, all the living entities within the universe, represented by the demigods and sages, prayed to the Supreme Lord for relief from Hiranyakashipu's rule. Lord Vishnu informed the demigods that they and the other living entities would be saved from the fearful conditions created by Hiranyakashipu. Since Hiranyakashipu was the oppressor of all the demigods, the followers of the Vedas, the cows, the Brahmanas, and the religious saintly persons, and since he was envious of the Supreme Lord, he would naturally be killed very soon. Hiranyakashipu's last exploit would be to torment his own son, Prahlad, who was a Mahabhagavat, an exalted devotee. Then his life would end. When the demigods were thus reassured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone was satisfied, knowing that the miseries inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu would come to an end. Finally, Narada Muni describes the characteristics of Prahlad Maharaj, the son of Hiranyakashipu, and describes how his father envied his own qualified son. In this way, the chapter ends. Text 1. Narada Muni continued, Lord Brahma was very much satisfied by Hiranyakashipu's austerities, which were difficult to perform. Therefore, when solicited for benedictions, he indeed granted them, although they were rarely to be achieved. Text 2. Lord Brahma said, O Hiranyakashipu, these benedictions for which you have asked are difficult to obtain for most men. Nonetheless, O my son, I shall grant you them, although they are generally not available. Purport. Material benedictions are not always exactly worthy of being called benedictions. If one possesses more and more, a benediction itself may become a curse. For just as achieving material opulence in this material world requires great strength and endeavor, maintaining it also requires great endeavor. Lord Brahma informed Hiranyakashipu that although he was ready to offer him whatever he had asked, the result of the benedictions would be very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to maintain. Nonetheless, since Brahma had promised, he wanted to grant all the benedictions asked. The word durlabhan indicates that one should not take benedictions one cannot enjoy peacefully. I'll repeat that one. The word durlabhan indicates that one should not take benedictions one cannot enjoy peacefully. Text 3. Then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakasipu, and being praised by great sages and saintly persons. Text 4. The demon Hiranyakasipu, having thus been blessed by Lord Brahma, and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother, and therefore be envious of Lord Vishnu. Purport. A demoniac person, in spite of acquiring all the opulences possible to obtain in this universe, continues to be envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 5-7. Hiranyakasipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, that great demon conquered all the planets in the three worlds, upper, middle, and lower, including the planets of the human beings, the Gandharvas, the Garudas, the great serpents, the Siddhas, Charanas, and Vidyadharas, the great saints, Yamaraj, the Manus, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pishachas, and their masters, and the masters of the ghosts and Bhutas. He defeated the rulers of all the other planets where there are living entities and brought them under his control. Conquering the abodes of all, he seized their power and influence. Purport. The word Garuda in this verse indicates that there are planets of great birds like Garuda. Similarly, the word Uraga indicates that there are planets of enormous serpents. Such a description of the various planets of the universe may challenge modern scientists who think that all planets but this Earth are vacant. These scientists claim to have launched excursions to the moon, where they have found no living entities, but only big craters full of dust and stone. Although in fact the moon is so brilliant that it acts like the sun in illuminating the entire universe. Of course, it is not possible to convince modern scientists of the Vedic information about the universe. Nonetheless, we are not very much impressed by the words of the scientists who say that all other planets are vacant and that only the Earth is full of living entities. Text 8. Hiranyakasipu, who possessed all opulence, began residing in heaven with its famous Nandana garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in the most opulent palace of Indra, the king of heaven. The palace had been directly constructed by the demigod architect Vishwakarma, and was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. Purport. From this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands upon thousands of times more opulent than the lower planetary system in which we live. Vishwakarma, the famous heavenly architect, is known as the constructor of many wonderful buildings in the upper planets, where there are not only beautiful buildings, but also many opulent gardens and parks, which are described as Nandana Devodhyana, gardens quite fit to be enjoyed by the demigods. This description of the upper planetary system and its opulences is to be understood from authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. Telescopes and other imperfect instruments of scientists are inadequate for evaluating the upper planetary system. Although such instruments are needed because the vision of the so-called scientists is imperfect, the instruments themselves are also imperfect. Therefore, the upper planets cannot be appraised by imperfect men using imperfect man-made instruments. Direct information received from the Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We therefore cannot accept the statement that there are no opulent residences on planets other than this Earth. 9-12. The steps of King Indra's residence were made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The walls were of crystal, and the columns of Vaidurya stone. The wonderful canopies were beautifully decorated. The seats were bedecked with rubies, and the silk bedding, as white as foam, was decorated with pearls. The ladies of the palace, who were blessed with beautiful teeth and the most wonderfully beautiful faces, walked here and there in the palace, their ankle bells tinkling melodiously, and saw their own beautiful reflections in the gems. The demigods, however, being very much oppressed, had to bow down and offer obeisances at the feet of Hiranyakasipu, who chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason. Thus Hiranyakasipu lived in the palace and severely ruled everyone. Purport. Hiranyakasipu was so powerful in the heavenly planets that all the demigods except Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu were forced to engage in his service. Indeed, they were afraid of being severely punished if they disobeyed him. Hare Krishna, Kelly. Hare Bo. Hare Krishna. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing good.
Good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had compared Hiranyakasipu to Maharaj Vena, who was also atheistic and scornful of the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. Yet Maharaj Vena was afraid of some of the great sages, such as Bhrigu, whereas Hiranyakasipu ruled in such a way that everyone feared him but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Hiranyakasipu was so alert against being burnt to ashes by the anger of great sages like Bhrigu that by dint of austerity he surpassed their power and placed even them under his subordination. It appears that even in the higher planetary systems, to which people are promoted by pious activities, disturbances are created by asuras like Hiranyakasipu. No one in the three worlds can live in peace and prosperity without disturbance. This brings to mind, just want to make a comment, this brings to mind a story about a journalist who went to cover Hitler's rise to power. So he went over there, and he got just in a time when they were having one of these parades, like military parades, and Hitler would ride in a big cart, something, and everybody would stand on the side of the roads and go Heil, 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 like that. So he was there, and it was building up, and then he actually started to come by, and the energy that was coming out, he felt himself beginning to change, like he was getting influenced, and he was starting to feel some kind of, subordination to him, or some kind of, tendency to submit, and he just said, "No, I don't think so," and he just left. But then he wrote about it later, and he said, "I can understand now how come big guys like this can actually, influence large numbers of people." We have that verse in the Gita, yad yada acharati shrestha tatadeva rochana. The leaders, the followers tend to follow the leaders of their country or wherever they are. So when they're very demoniac, the whole mass of people get swept away in that. So it's not out of the question when we see the things that have happened, even on this earth, even within the last 100, 200 years, to understand how this kind of situation could actually happen in the higher planetary systems. Little comment, sorry. Text 13. Oh my dear king, Hiranyakasipu was always drunk on strong smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. Purport. In the Skanda Purana, there is this description: Upayanam dadu sarve vina devan hiranyakaha. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that everyone but the three principal demigods, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, engaged in his service. Madhvacharya says, Aditya Basavo Rudras Trivida Hi Surayataha. There are three kinds of demigods, the Adityas, the Vasus, and the Rudras, beneath whom are the other demigods, like the Maruts, the Sadyas, Marutas Chaiva Vishwecha, Sadyas Chaiva Chatad Gataha. Therefore, all the demigods are called Tri Pishtapa, and the same word Tri applies to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Text 14. O Maharaj Yudhishthir, descendant of Pandu, by dint of his personal power, Hiranyakasipu, being situated on the throne of King Indra, controlled the inhabitants of all the other planets. The two Gandharvas, Vishwavasu, and Tumburu, and myself, and the Vidyadharas, Apsaras, and sages, all offered prayers to him again and again, just to glorify him. Purport. The Asuras sometimes become so powerful that they can engage even Narada Muni and similar devotees in their service. This does not mean that Narada was subordinate to Hiranyakasipu. Sometimes, however, it so happens in this material world that great personalities, even great devotees, can also be controlled by the Asuras. Text 15. Being worshipped by sacrifices offered with great gifts by those who strictly followed the principles of Varna and Ashrama, Hiranyakasipu, instead of offering shares of the oblations to the demigods, accepted them himself. 16. As if in fear of Hiranyakasipu, the planet Earth, which consists of 7 islands, delivered food grains without being plowed. Thus it resembled cows like the Surabhi of the spiritual world and the Kamaduga of heaven. The earth yielded sufficient food grains, the cows supplied abundant milk, and outer space was beautifully decorated with wonderful phenomena. Text 17. By the flowing of their waves, the various oceans of the universe, along with their tributaries, the rivers, which are compared to their wives, supplied various kinds of gems and jewels for Hiranyakasipu's use. These oceans were the oceans of salt water, sugar-cane juice, wine, clarified butter, milk, yogurt, and sweet water. Purport. The water of the seas and oceans of this planet, of which we have experience, are salty, but other planets within the universe contain oceans of sugarcane juice, liquor, ghee, milk, and sweet water. The rivers are figuratively described as wives of the oceans and seas because they glide down to the oceans and seas as tributaries, like the wives attached to their husbands. Modern scientists attempt excursions to other planets, but they have no information of how many different types of oceans and seas there are within the universe. According to their experience, the moon is full of dust, but this does not explain how it gives us soothing rays from a distance of millions of miles. As far as we are concerned, we follow the authority of Vyasadeva and Chukadev Goswami, who have described the universal situation according to the Vedic literature. These authorities differ from modern scientists, who conclude from their imperfect sensual experience that only this planet is inhabited by living beings, whereas the other planets are all vacant or full of dust. Text 18. The valleys between the mountains became fields of pleasure for Hiranyakasipu, by whose influence all the trees and plants produced fruits and flowers profusely in all seasons. The qualities of pouring water, drying and burning, which are all qualities of the 3 departmental heads of the universe, namely Indra, Vayu, and Agni, were all directed by Hiranyakasipu alone, without assistance from the demigods. Purport. It is said in the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Tejo vari mridam yata vinamaya. This material world is conducted by fire, water, and earth, which combine and take shape. Here it is mentioned that the three modes of nature, pritag gunan, act under the direction of different demigods. For example, King Indra is in charge of pouring water. The demigod Vayu controls the air and dries up the water, whereas the demigod controlling fire burns everything. Hiranyakasipu, however, by dint of his austere performance of mystic yoga, became so powerful that he alone took charge of everything, without assistance from the demigods. Text 19. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakasipu was dissatisfied, because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. Purport. This is an example of asuric life. Atheists can advance materially and create an extremely comfortable situation for the senses. But because they are controlled by the senses, they cannot be satisfied. This is the effect of modern civilization. Materialists are very much advanced in enjoying money and women, yet dissatisfaction prevails within human society because human society cannot be happy and peaceful without Krishna consciousness. As far as material sense gratification is concerned, materialists may go on increasing their enjoyment as far as they can imagine, but because people in such a material condition are servants of their senses, they cannot be satisfied. Hiranyakasipu was a vivid example of this dissatisfied state of humanity. Text 20. Having been subjected to a curse by the four Kumaras, who were great Brahmanas, Hiranyakasipu thus passed a long time being very much proud of his opulences and transgressing the laws and regulations mentioned in the authoritative Shastra. Purport. There have been many instances in which demons, after achieving material opulences, have become extremely proud, so much so that they have transgressed the laws and regulations given in the authoritative Shastras. Hiranyakasipu acted in this way. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 16:23, Yakshastra vidim utsrija vartate kamakarataha nasa siddhim avapnoti nasukam na param gatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. The word Shastra refers to that which controls our activities. We cannot violate or transgress the laws and regulative principles mentioned in the Shastras. Bhagavad Gita repeatedly confirms this. Tasmach chastram pramanam te karya vyabastitau gyatva shastra vidanuktam karmakartum iharasi. One should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Bhagavad Gita 16:24. One should act according to the direction of the Shastra, but the material energy is so powerful that as soon as one becomes materially opulent, he begins to transgress the Shastric laws. As soon as one transgresses the laws of Shastra, he immediately enters upon the path of destruction. Text 21. Everyone, including the rulers of the various planets, was extremely distressed because of the severe punishment inflicted upon them by Hiranyakasipu. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any other shelter, they at last surrendered to the personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Purport. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Bhoktaram Jagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Mrichtiti. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is actually the best friend of everyone. In a condition of distress or misery, one wants to seek shelter of a well-wishing friend. The well-wishing friend of the perfect order is Lord Sri Krishna. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the various planets, being unable to find any other shelter, were obliged to seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Friend. It is from the very beginning we seek shelter of the. If from the very beginning we seek shelter of the Supreme Friend, there will be no cause of danger. It is said that if a dog is swimming in the water and one wants to cross the ocean by catching hold of the dog's tail, certainly he is foolish. Similarly, if in distress one seeks shelter of a demigod, he is foolish, for his efforts will be fruitless. In all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there will be no danger under any circumstances. Text 22 and 23. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that direction where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated, where those purified souls in the renounced order of life, the great saintly persons, go, and from which, having gone, they never return. Without sleep, fully controlling their minds, and living only on their breath, the predominating deities of the various planets began worshipping Rishikesha with this meditation. Purport. The two words tasyai kastayai are very significant. Everywhere, in every direction, in every heart, and in every atom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in his features as Brahman and Paramatma. Then what is the purpose of saying tasyai kastayai in that direction where Hari is situated? During Hiranyakasipu's time, his influence was everywhere, but he could not force his influence into the places where the Supreme Personality of Godhead had his pastimes. For example, on this earth, there are such places as Vrindavan and Ayodhya, which are called Dhammas. In the Dham, there is no influence from Kali Yuga or any demon. If one takes shelter of such a Dham, worship of the Lord becomes very easy, and resultant spiritual advancement quickly takes place. In fact, in India, one may still go to Vrindavan and similar places to achieve the results of spiritual activities quickly. Text 24. Then there appeared before them a transcendental sound vibration emanating from a personality not visible to material eyes. The voice was as grave as the sound of a cloud, and it was very encouraging, driving away all fear. Text 25 and 26. The voice of the Lord vibrated as follows: O best of learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune to you. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers. For these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. I know all about the activities of Hiranyakasipu and shall surely stop them very soon. Please wait patiently until that time. Purport. Sometimes people are very much eager to see God. In considering the word mad-darshanam, seeing me, the Lord says, bhaktya mam abhijanati. In other words, the ability to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or to see Him, or talk with Him, depends on one's advancement in devotional service, which is called bhakti. In bhakti, there are 9 different activities: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Bhagavatam 7.5.23. Because all these devotional activities are absolute, there is no fundamental difference between worshipping the deity in the temple, seeing Him, and chanting His glories. Instead, all of these are ways of seeing Him, for everything done in devotional service is a means of direct contact with the Lord. The vibration of the Lord's voice appeared in the presence of all the devotees, and although the person vibrating the sound was unseen to them, they were meeting or seeing the Lord because they were offering prayers, and because the vibration of the Lord was present. Contrary to the laws of the material world, there is no difference between seeing the Lord, offering prayers, and hearing the transcendental vibration. Pure devotees, therefore, are fully satisfied by glorifying the Lord. Such glorification is called kirtan. Performing kirtan and hearing the vibration of the sound Hare Krishna is actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. One must realize this position, and then one will be able to understand the absolute nature of the Lord's activities. Text 27. When one is envious of the demigods who represent the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the Vedas, which give all knowledge, the cows, Brahmanas, Vaishnavas, and religious principles, and ultimately of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. Text 28. When Hiranyakasipu attacks the great devotee Prahlad, his own son, who is peaceful and sober and who has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakasipu immediately, despite the benedictions of Brahma. Purport. Of all sinful activities, an offense to a pure devotee or Vaishnava is the most severe. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is so disastrous that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has compared it to a mad elephant that enters a garden and causes great havoc by uprooting many plants and trees. If one is an offender at the lotus feet of a Brahmana or Vaishnava, his offenses uproot all his auspicious activities. One should therefore very carefully guard against committing Vaishnava aparad, or offenses at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Here the Lord clearly says that although Hiranyakasipu had received benedictions from Lord Brahma, these benedictions would be null and void as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, his own son. A Vaishnava like Prahlad Maharaj is described herein as nirvaira, having no enemies. Elsewhere in Srimad-Bhagavatam 3.25-21, it is said, Ajata Shatavak Shanta Sadhava Sadhubhushana. A devotee has no enemies. He is peaceful, he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. A devotee does not create enmity with anyone, but if someone becomes his enemy, that person will be vanquished by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, despite whatever benedictions he may have received from other sources. Hiranyakasipu was certainly enjoying the fruitful results of his austerities, but here the Lord says that as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, he would be ruined. One's longevity, opulence, beauty, education, and whatever else one may possess as a result of pious activities cannot protect one if one commits an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Despite whatever one possesses, if one offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, he will be vanquished. Text 29. The great Saint Narada Muni continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of everyone, thus reassured all the demigods living in the heavenly planets, they offered their respectful obeisances unto him and returned, confident that the demon Hiranyakasipu was now practically dead. Purport. The less intelligent men who are always busy worshipping the demigods should note that when the demigods are harassed by the demons, they approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for relief. Since the demigods resort to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why should the worshippers of the demigods not approach the Supreme Lord for whatever benefits they desire? Srimad-Bhagavatam 2.3.10 says, Akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udaradihi tivrina bhakti yogina yajeta purusham param. Whether one desires everything or nothing, or whether he desires to merge into the existence of the Lord, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendental, loving service. Whether one is a karmi, jnani, or yogi, if one wants a particular benediction fulfilled, even if it be material, one should approach the Supreme Lord and pray to him, for then it will be fulfilled. There is no need to approach any demigod separately for the fulfillment of any desire. Text 30. Hiranyakasipu had 4 wonderful, well-qualified sons, of whom one, named Prahlad, was the best. Indeed, Prahlad was a reservoir of all transcendental qualities, because he was an unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead. Purport. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana sarvair gunais tattva samasate suraha. In one who has unflinching faith in Krishna, all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods are consistently manifest. Bhagavatam 5.18.12. Prahlad Maharaj is praised herein for having all good qualities because of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a pure devotee who has no motives has all good qualities, material and spiritual. If one is spiritually advanced, being a staunch, liberal devotee of the Lord, all good qualities are manifest in his body. On the other hand, harao abhaktasya kuto mahad guna. If one is not a devotee, even if he has some materially good qualities, they have no value. That is the verdict of the Vedas. 31 and 32. The qualities of Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad, the son of Hiranyakasipu, are described herewith. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having very good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. He had full control of his senses and mind. Like the supersoul, He was kind to every living entity and was the best friend of everyone. To respectable persons, he acted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older God brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on. Purport. These are some of the qualifications of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana because a Vaishnava has all the good qualities of a Brahmana. Shamo, Damas, Tapak, Shaucham, Chantir, Arjavam, Evacha, Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam, Brahmakarma, Subhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Bhagavad Gita 18:42. The qualities, these qualities are manifest in the body of a Vaishnava. Therefore, a perfect Vaishnava is also a perfect Brahmana, as indicated here by the words Brahmanya Srila Sampanaha. A Vaishnava is always determined to understand the absolute truth, and to understand the absolute truth, one needs to have full control over his senses and mind. Prahlad Maharaj possessed all these qualities. A Vaishnava is always a well-wisher to everyone. The 6 Goswamis, for example, are described in this way: Dhira Dhira Janapriyo. They were popular with both the gentle and the ruffians. A Vaishnava must be equal to everyone, regardless of one's position. Atmavat. A Vaishnava should be like Paramatma. Ishwarak Sarvabhutanam Riddhisher Janatishtati. Paramatma does not hate anyone. Indeed, he is in the heart of a Brahmana, but he is also even in the heart of a pig. As the moon never refuses to distribute its pleasing rays, even to the home of a Chandala, a Vaishnava never refuses to act for everyone's welfare. Therefore, a Vaishnava is always obedient to the spiritual master, Arya. The word Arya refers to one who is advanced in knowledge. One who is deficient in knowledge cannot be called Arya. At the present, however, the word Arya is used to refer to those who are godless. Arya Samaj. They don't believe in the Vedas. They don't believe in God. Did you know that? Yeah. This is the unfortunate situation of Kali Yuga. The word Guru refers to the spiritual master who initiates his disciple into advancement in the science of Krishna, or Krishna consciousness, as stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Shri Bhagavan Mantro Padeshakte Garvapi Artaha. Text 33. Although Prahlad Maharaj was born in the family of the Suras, he himself was not an Asura, but a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Unlike the other Asuras, he was never envious of Vaishnavas. He was not agitated when put into danger, and he was neither directly nor indirectly interested in the fruitive activities described in the Vedas. Indeed, he considered everything material to be useless, and therefore he was completely devoid of material desires. He always controlled his senses and life air, and being of steady intelligence and determination, he subdued all lusty desires. Purport. From this verse, we discover that a man is not qualified or disqualified simply by birth. Prahlad Maharaj was an asura by birth, yet he possessed all the qualities of a perfect Brahmana. Brahmanya Shila Sampanaha. Anyone can become a fully qualified Brahmana under the direction of a spiritual master. Prahlad Maharaj provided a vivid example of how to think of the spiritual master and accept his directions calmly. So we'll stop there, 5:30. We got things going on in the world that people have to go out to. Hare Krishna. We have our open mic session now. Yes, Pranahari. I thought you'd never ask.
In a purport or two ago, it was said that devotee Vaishnav is equal to all. And we had read recently in the Isha Upanishad about the different levels, Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttama, Bhakta. And so one of the characteristics of a Madhyama, one on the Madhyama platform, is that he does distinguish between the Lord, the devotees, the innocent, the envious, and he treats them accordingly. Would you care to comment on how it is that we can remain equal, but yet we're not uttamas yet, but how one could be on the Madhyama platform and still have this equality?
Become an uttama. Prahlad Maharaj is uttama. But even the uttamadhikari will sometimes exhibit anger if he sees that Krishna is being blasphemed or put in danger by someone. The example is Hanuman. He jumped over the ocean and just burned Lanka to the ground because of anger that he had toward Ravana for kidnapping Sita. That's an example of spiritual anger. Sometimes a spiritual master will act as if he's angry in order to correct a disciple. But I've personally been in the presence of Prabhupada when he got angry. And I have a really lovely story about Satsvarup Maharaj. He was the secretary of Prabhupada, and he was in Vrindavan. You know, Vrindavan in those days, it wasn't so easy to do things. Mail letters, phone calls. I mean, it was like, just to make a phone call, you had to make a lightning call if it was out of the country. And you could wait for a week just to get the phone out, and then you never know whether it was going to come back. I mean, Prabhupada, expanded this movement through snail mail. There was no internet. He didn't even use a phone practically. But anyway, so Satsvarup Maharaj was his secretary. They were in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada wrote a letter, and then at the end of the letter he put E-N-C-L, inclusion, or Einsel. And then he mentioned in the letter that he was including something, So then Satsvarup sent out the letter and he forgot to put the inclusion. And I don't remember what it was. So then Prabhupada got a letter back from this person about a week later, or 10 days later. What happened to the enclosure? Oh yeah, it's not enclosure, it's enclosure, not inclusion. What happened to the enclosure? And then Prabhupada immediately called Satsvarup in. He said, so, I got this letter and it said that the enclosure wasn't in it. What happened? And Satsvarup said, oh, I forgot. So why did you forget? Well, Prabhupada, I'm a fool. Why are you a fool? And he kept going like that and going like that. He just wouldn't let up. And then at some point, Satsvarup, he just broke down. He psychologically broke down. He was in tears. He didn't know what to do. And Prabhupada just kept on him, I mean, you would think that it was like some kind of, tyranny or something. But then, Satsvarup Maharaj was given the intelligence. He said, Prabhupada, I'll write a letter, put the enclosure in it, and apologize and make sure that the person knows that it was my fault, it wasn't your Prabhupada. Immediately the room changed, and Prabhupada said, yeah, okay. And there was no residue of any anger anywhere, including in Prabhupada's face or in his vibrations, you know? So the Vaishnava doesn't become the enemy of anyone in the sense that Krishna doesn't become the enemy of anyone, because Krishna sometimes, this whole section of the Bhagavatam is explaining how Krishna is not partial to anyone, even though sometimes he will kill a demon who comes to him wanting to kill him. And then what happens? That person gets liberated. They'll actually get the same, destination as yogis who meditate for thousands of years and get impersonal liberation. So in this way, Krishna proves by his practical, activities that, he's not actually anybody's enemy. So we can start trying to apply that principle even in the beginning of our devotional lives. That's what sadhana means. That sadhana means to practice, to get the sadhya. The sadhya is what they're talking about here. The sadhya is the goal, to be, non-envious of anyone or not anyone's enemy, just like Krishna. Of course, we can't be like Krishna, but anyone that we come in contact with, Krishna is in the heart of everyone, so he's the true friend of everyone. But we can practice being friends with everyone we meet. We don't have to take things personally. We don't have to get angry. We don't have to, act like we're spiteful and all these different things. Not required. And that's part of the practice of sadhana bhakti. And it's all through the Gita. Dukeshu anuvigdamana, sukeshu vigitasviha, vitaragabaya kroda, stitidir muniruchade. Sukaduki samekritva, labha jayajiyo, tato yudaya yujasva, naivam papa bababjazi. Fight, or Arjun, for the sake of fighting, not considering happiness or distress, victory or loss, gain or happiness or distress. And then naivam papa bababjazi. You'll never incur bad reactions, Yes, Pranita. Is that okay?
I actually wasn't raising my hand, but as you called on me, one popped into my head. It's just some basic, simple thing. Just wondering if you could explain what causes us to suffer and why, in general.
What causes us to suffer? We suffer as soon as we forget Krishna. As long as we are thinking we are the body, we suffer. Actually, the material world is a place of suffering. You can't avoid it altogether. No one. Abrahma bhuvana loka punarabhitanorjana mamopeti punarjanmad. So the body, this is an intense thing to think. But the body is actually disease. The body itself is a disease of the soul. We can realize this to the proportion or to the extent that we become fully Krishna conscious. If you become fully Krishna conscious, then even the things that you come in contact with that cause suffering are minimized to the point where they're like somebody would be yelling at you, right? Like nasty, but behind us, a 6 foot thick perspex wall. They may get red in the face and say all the time nasty things, but you won't hear them. It won't, So when one learns to control the mind and the senses, which is the first stage of self-realization, without controlling the mind and the senses, you can't take a step forward in spiritual life. So when by practice, one gets the knack of keeping the senses under control, by how? By staying engaged in devotional service, some kind of service. Remembering Krishna while you're doing your duties in life. There's one really nice purport, text 57, chapter 18, in which Prabhupada gives this formula for remembering Krishna everywhere, always. He says, one should think, I've been appointed this duty by Krishna. Whatever it is, I've been appointed this duty by Krishna. And if you practice doing that, then Krishna appreciates it, first of all, and then you'll start to remember him under all conditions. That doesn't mean that you can, you carry around one of these harmonica, things with the picture of Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu, I can't do any service because I'm remembering Krishna. That's silly. But we can remember, even while you're doing your duty. If you say that before you do something, I've been appointed to this duty by Krishna, so I should do it really nicely for Krishna, and then do it. And you don't be thinking of Krishna at every second while you're doing it, but you'll be more Krishna conscious. And if you keep practicing and do that every time you do something, then you get relief, you get real relief. And if you say, well, how do you know? You have to try it. It's like I can give you a nice gulab jamun. Looks so nice, tastes great. How do you know? Well, you don't until you put it in your mouth, Yes, sir.
I was also appreciating in one of the verses when Lord Vishnu starts to speak in response to the demigods, the word for word, it has the word mud darshanam, and Prabhupada spoke about it in the purport, how people want to see God and whatnot. And the word for word, Prabhupada translates it as hearing and chanting.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that because mud darshanam means seeing me.
Yes.
And Prabhupada translates it word for word.
Well, and in the purport he also says that
purport
it's tantamount to seeing Krishna.
So I thought that was pretty...
Hearing and chanting about Krishna from the right source, is tantamount to seeing Krishna.
Yeah,
that's why we say this prayer that Sanatana Goswami says, every time before we read the Bhagavatam. Not different than Krishna. And then in the beginning of the Bhagavatam it says, if you hear this literature without envy, freed from envy, and honestly, sincerely, then you will see Krishna in the pages. You will experience associating with Krishna in the pages. I mean, I'm not an advanced devotee. Who am I? I'm just an ordinary person. But, I can honestly say that I've been reading this book for 47 years. No joke. And for the last 5 years, every single day, with others, out loud. And it never gets tiring. It just gets better and better and better. So some people say, yeah, but it doesn't feel better when I do it. Well, yeah, it depends on your consciousness, doesn't it? Yes. What is your name again?
Caesar.
Caesar.
Yeah.
Nice name.
Thank you. I had a question about and relation to his what's the source to you? When you said chanting from the source, what is
what
that?
is the source?
Yeah.
Well, we said if you hear about Krishna from a person who has heard about Krishna, from a person who has heard from Krishna, from a person who has heard from Krishna, from a person who has heard from... right to Krishna. That's the source. If you look at the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita, did you have a Bhagavad Gita yet? Well, we'll give you one before you leave. Present. And in the beginning, in the introduction, it has the disciplic succession from Krishna right down to our spiritual master who translated this book. So it's like a current of sound. Just like when you have a plug point, it looks nice, but if it's not connected, the wire is not connected all the way back to the powerhouse, then there's no juice that comes out. You can put your device in there, it won't work. So similarly, if you are connected with that parampara system, and you've heard, that sound, having gone through the ear, through the mouth, through the ear, through the mouth, through the ear, through the mouth, directly from Krishna. And we're very, very fortunate because the last time Krishna appeared was 500 years ago only. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was Krishna himself. And we're only 12 persons removed from him. Srila Prabhupada was 11. You're 13. If you so choose to take it up. It's like everything, everyone. It's no different. It's just a spiritual principle. There's no one on the earth who hasn't learned what they learn from hearing from someone else. So why should spiritual life be any different? So if you're, of course, look at he's a checked out kid that got highly elevated parents and who knows what he knows. But if you didn't happen to know something, and he asked me, "What's this?" and I'd say, "This is the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God." And he may not understand what that means exactly. But if one of his little friends comes and says, "What's this?" he says, "This is the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God." That's the truth. Because he heard it from someone who knew. So that's the same principle of receiving transcendental knowledge. Of course, it also depends on the quality of our heart, the quality of our mind, how receptive we are. If our mind is very disturbed, for instance, and if I speak to you and I say something kind of important and you realize all of a sudden that you really need it, you'll say, "Huh?" Right? Huh? Huh? Exactly. So, and Jesus said the same thing. He said, "Let those who have ears hear." So if you can learn the art of hearing with faith, and faith is not blind. Faith means by experimenting and by trying to follow or hearing with theoretically that if this is true, then what? If I hear this as if it's true, what will it do to me? If you're that intelligent, then when you hear like that, then you will get something more. And if you hear with full faith and with love and without argument, then you get the full force of Krishna's knowledge. And you can see Krishna. You can at least see doesn't mean you necessarily see with these eyes, but you experience, you perceive Krishna in the sound.
Yeah, seeing with sound.
Seeing with sound. Got it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate the question. Thank you. Yes, Kelly.
So whenever you have your devotees, right? What is it like? What are certain things that they have to follow to stay, I guess, like devoted, or like certain things or rules that they can't, you know?
The do's and the do-nots? Well, there's always do's and do-nots, aren't there? You see, there are rules that we follow, but all of the rules are servants of one rule, and that is always remember Krishna and never forget him. So all the things that we do in terms of rules and regulations are meant to bring us to that rule. We don't have illicit sex, which means sex outside of marriage, basically. We don't gamble. Gamble means we don't try to get something for nothing. And what that does is when you gamble, it develops dishonesty in the consciousness and falsity. And we don't eat meat, fish or eggs. And we don't take intoxication. We don't alter our consciousness by artificial means. But we alter our consciousness by hearing about Krishna and taking Krishna Prasadam, in case you haven't done that yet. You automatically feel different when you take Krishna Prasadam, food offered to Krishna. And if you eat only food offered to Krishna, if you make a vow not to put anything in your mouth that hasn't been offered to Krishna, and to do that you have to only put in your mouth what Krishna likes, what Krishna will accept. Then your body and your mind, which is replenished from what you eat, becomes gradually spiritualized. And then we chant Hare Krishna. That's the fun part. And we hear these wonderful literatures spoken by a liberated soul. It's simple, actually. That's all there is to it, actually. To take initiation, to become connected to the parampara system and receive the mantras properly. There's a ceremony, there's a ritual, but the main thing is to take these vows. We chant 16 rounds of the Mahamantra every day, minimum, and we follow these 4 regulative principles. That's the only vow that we take in our initiation ceremony. I mean, there's many other things that we do, but those are that's the gold. Not yet? Oh, right. Still waiting. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I'm supposed to talk to somebody at 6 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, very much for your lovely questions and reflections. Thank you, all of you out in cyberspace. And I've been suggested by Rati Manjari, who, she's been listening, live from Amsterdam every day for a long time, and she started to she wasn't getting enough sleep, let's put it that way. She was up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning every night, and she works every day. So she asked me for permission to not come to the live ones. And then she made a suggestion that maybe she could write questions, and then I could, answer them. So I think I'll start doing that. If persons who are not able to go to the live reading, those of you who are out there somewhere, and you want to ask questions, then you can write them to me personally, or you can write them as a message. How do they do that? They write comment. Yeah. So write the comments, and then the next day we can answer them. We have a very high-tech person here organizing the whole thing. Dr. Patrick.
They'd have to make sure I know that it's to be used for tomorrow, the next day. So that.
Well, you'll just have to go through it and just run through the comments of the day before, and
Yeah, okay.
or indicate that this is And hi, I'm not live, but could you answer this question tomorrow? Something like that. Okay, so write a comment. If you can write me an email or a text, or you can write to this site, to this Facebook page, fan page, and make a note. You know, this is a question from such and such for tomorrow, please. Something like that. Anyway, it's an experiment. Let's see how it works. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Hare Krishna. Hiranyakasipu ki jai. Whoa, I don't know if I want to go jai. But anyway, he's bringing the Lord into the world, so we'll give him some credit for that. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. See you tomorrow at 4:30. Same time, same place, same station. Hare Krishna.